For today's The Next Big Thing YouTube Hot, I'm going to scrapbook this 5x7, but I also have 4 other photos to put on this layout. I'm also going to use the Creative Memories In-Flight Decorative Border Punch, and I'm going to put a half border at the bottom and a half border at the top. But all in all, this is going to go very quickly, and hold on to your seats because we'll be rocking. I've selected a background piece of paper, and this is from the Creative Memories Global Getaway Tone on Tone paper pack. And this particular sheet has this brown background on it, but I wanted the sheet that has all of these locations all over it. I wanted this paper because it has places from all over the world. Germany, India, EU, Mexico, Russia. And it has airplane icons on it. And what the pictures are is me on my bucket list place I've wanted to go for a very long time since I was a child, to the Wright Brothers Memorial, Wilbur and Orville Wright. And it was much more of an experience than I expected. And I'm so happy I got to go there. And it commemorates, of course, the first heavier than air flight that was successful. I'm a big fan of this border punch. It's a knockout style punch, and so it just cuts out the elements and it leaves the straight edge attached on one side and the paper fully attached on the bottom side. Well, I want a little decorative edge up here at the top. I'm putting the wave blade into my 12-inch decorative trimmer because I want that decorative edge on my paper before I punch it. You have to get your cut correct on the first cut because you can't move the blade up and down. So I'm putting very firm pressure on my blade. And I got the edge that I wanted. I'm going to line my paper up. For me, I'm using this black line on the left, but you can line it up with the black line on the right, whether you are going to move your paper that way as I do, or move your paper this way as some do. I'm putting my wave cut edge at the top, and I'm cutting. And this is how the punch turned out. I'm about to cut a white background to put behind my border. And I'm going to cut it at 1.5 inches. But before I just put a plain white background on here, I'm going to ink and put some color on here. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. So I'm going to cut 1.5 inches of bright white cardstock. Next, as you can see, I brought out my inks and my Creative Memories craft mat, which I totally love. And the way you use it, you put the words Creative Memories face down. And this is your working surface. Now, it's not critical this time, but I always like to wipe my surface off just to make sure there's no leftover ink from a previous project. So what I want to do is put this white behind my blue, and I'm going to want to put a little ink in some spots. And the inks I have are gray flannel, cantaloupe, and just in case, a little summer sky light blue. Now, I'm not going to stencil through my main border, so I'm going to make myself a stencil with a scrap piece of paper. So I've taken this scrap piece of paper here, and I'm going to punch a template so that I can use it as a stencil to ink. And so I'm lining this up the same way I had lined up my navy cardstock. Okay, I've now taken this scrap and punched myself a stencil. And now I can put my stencil over top of my main paper. And you know what? I'm going to put a little repositionable adhesive on it to keep it from slipping and sliding as I'm rubbing my stencil. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to stencil the gray on my airplanes. And so I'm going to kind of cover up where the other stencil holes are. So if my brush gets over a little bit, it won't put gray in my clouds because I don't want gray clouds. And I'm going to do my 5 airplanes. This is gray flannel. I'm going to tap off a little bit so I don't get a blotch. Now, one thing to remember, you don't have to get these perfect. It's not going to be a perfectly aligned stencil. You can go over because it's going to be covered by the navy blue. However, this might be a cute way of doing it in the future. You know what? I think I'll cover it up this way too. Oh, I forgot. See, I forgot to blot it off, and I have that blotch in there. Let's blotch the whole thing then. Okay, so that was my gray. And of course, you can't tell what it's looking like just yet because the stencil is covered up in color. But next, let's see what we can do about our sunshine here. So next I want to put some cantaloupe, a yellowy orangey color, into the area that looks like the sun. I want to put a circular shape of color right here to represent the sun. And I don't have a circle punch this size. And I want this edge right here and here to actually look like a circle. So what I did was I have a 1-inch circle punch, 1 inch, and I punched it 2 times, and I've layered the 2 circles over each other to kind of give me the coverage that will give me that circular shape right there where I want this to go. So I'm going to cover up that, and I don't want to cover up my circle. Okay, I want to cover my airplane, and I want to cover the other cloud. Okay, and let's see how this rolls. Hey, the worst that could happen, I have to punch another one and start over. I'm not getting a deep color with this, but I don't really need it to be deeply yellow or orangey. Oh, I like it. Okay, so I'm using the Post-it notes to cover up the airplane and the smaller cloud. And then I'm making this layered stencil here. And now I'm going to peel away my stencil. Now, a little bit of repo got on my page, but that is so lovely. Now, let's see how that works out. That's going to work out beautifully. So now I'm going to adhere my white layer to my navy blue layer, and then I'm going to trim the whole border. Actually, I could have left that repositionable on here. Okay. Now, I don't mind if a little white peeks through if it's not completely aligned. So I don't mind that it's not completely aligned and that there's a little white peeking through it. It sort of gives a little shadow. And this sunshine that came through the stencil is just perfect. I need to do a little better alignment. But this turned out great. I'm really happy. My advice is when trying to align these, I started with the one in the middle and kind of worked my way out, and I got an alignment that I was really happy with. So this turned out great. I'm really happy. I was experimenting. I didn't know if it would work. So just quickly, I made a stencil by punching the in-flight border on a scrap piece of paper. And then I made this little self-made stencil here by punching a 1-inch circle on 2 pieces of paper and then overlapping them just to give me the right amount of curve so that I would get the right amount of a circular shape here and here in this design. And I'm so pleased with how this turned out. And so now let's get to the rest of our layout. So now the remainder of this layout is really going to be fast and easy. I have this 5x7 right here in the middle, and I have these 3-inch by 3-inch photos here and here. And I cut a mat out of the same navy cardstock as this, and I cut it at 7 1/4 inches wide by 5 1/4 inch tall, just to mat this center focal photo. So I'm going to cut this border in half and put 1/2 up here and 1/2 down here. So I believe I'm going to push this over to the right and have quite a large area for journaling because this trip to the Wright Brothers Memorial has been a bucket list place on my list for a long, long time. And I have a lot of thoughts about this. So I think I want a big spot to journal on. And then I think that'll be enough for the page. So I'm going to adhere things down and work on my journaling and be back with the final version of this layout. This is our final layout, and I am very happy with it. I made this journaling spot to be a cluster base as well. I cut down this variety mat card to be both a journal spot and a cluster base. Originally, it was 4.5 inches wide by 6.5 inches tall. I cut it down to be 3 5/8 inches wide and 5 5/8 inches tall. Inside, it left me with a really nice place to journal. I adhered down my photos and the border. I cut the border in half, 6 inches up here and 6 inches down here. I matted my 5x7 photo on a mat that was 7 1/4 inches wide by 5 1/4 inches tall. And these 3x3 photos here, and up here were all that this page needs. So I'm really happy. I'm going to take a moment though and read the journaling because it is very poignant to me. It says, "The meaningfulness of this place runs deep in me. I wanted to come here as a child. I remember a lost photo of my mother before I was born, taken here. And my career and livelihood is a result of the accomplishments that happened at this place by the people remembered here. I am deeply grateful for all of it." I hope that you enjoy the making of this multicolored border using homemade stencils and inks and brushes. If so, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and YouTube says there's another video here, and I hope you'll watch it also. I hope you'll go watch the other creators on this YouTube hop. There are some amazing creators here.